Okay.
Great. Welcome, everybody. So the first talk hopefully was pretty nice. I'm not sure if Philip is still smiling, so I assume that everything went just great. And we do have our second panel, or it's the first panel of the day, but the second talk. And I do have all those, well, those are experts. You can really feel the expertise flowing from them. So I'm just, yeah, it's because of the tie, of course. Yeah, I can see that. It's just great to have you all here. So we will have the sustainability talk, sustainability and recycling, the new blueprint for success. And I will introduce you to all of the speakers right now. First of all, we do have Raoul Popp. He's from the Circular Economy Coalition, CERC, and he's the program director of the Ecoteca Association. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Well,
Perfect.
welcome to Raoul, ladies and gentlemen. Then we have Yao Nich. He's the EMEA lead program manager at the Landbill Group. Great to have you here as well. We have Mr. Ao Vainu, founder and general secretary of the Electronic Cigarette Professional Committee of China Electronic Chamber of Commerce. Or in short, it is the ECCC, which is much easier to spell out. And we have Peter Beckett, which I'm pretty proud to have him here today as well. He's partner from 361. Great to have all of you here. So please, everyone, give us a short introduction of yourselves and what are you doing today?
Should I start?
Yes, you can start.
All right. First of all, thank you for having me. Good morning, everybody. Exciting times now and ahead of us. My name is Raoul Popp. I come from civil society. I'm from two NGOs, actually. One is the Coalition for Circular Economy in Romania, and the other one is a pure green NGO called Ecoteca. We do a lot of public policy work. We do a lot of, let's say, filling the gap between big legislation and what happens at the factory or at the store floor, well, because sometimes you work with a lot of very important, very big concepts, but they're not entirely understood by the business, by the public institutions. So sometimes they need so-called, we call it translation. Ecoteca is a 14 years old NGO now. We work a lot with the industry. We do a lot of work on extended producer responsibility. And I believe that's probably one of the most relevant discussions that we can have today on the topic of the vaping industry, both in terms of the actual product, but also in terms of the logistics of it and of the way of delivering the flavor and stuff like that. And of course, I'm talking about the electronic devices. Electronic devices, which later on definitely e-waste, and that it means also batteries and accumulators and wasted batteries and accumulators, and that has to be always matched with the expectations from the society and from the legislators in terms of responsibility. Individual responsibility, which then translates into costs, which then translates into logistic systems. So a lot of juicy stuff to talk about.
Thank you very much. So, Yao, what are you doing today? What are you going to talk about?
Nice. So nice to be here. My name is João. I work for Landbill Group. I'm a circular economy program manager. So Landbill Group is a company based in Germany, but we are working in 60 countries around the world. We manage around 250,000 tons per year of electronic waste and batteries. We also have packaging recycling services, but we also do this part of electronic waste and batteries. So we work as regarding extended producer responsibility and PROs. So we have a compliance services regarding the responsibilities of companies, retailers, sellers, online sellers also. And then we support customers regarding logistics and recycling, or also other ways to dispose items regarding reuse and refurbishment. So we've been in contact with B2C and B2B companies. I think there are different challenges here. When we talk about vapes, e-vapes, we talk with both types of companies. So when we talk of end customers, and also when we talk about companies in relationship with other companies. So I think there's a word relating with vapes here. We know the supply chain is very big. There are many stakeholders involved, and I think this is part of our conversation today. to understand the role of each stakeholder here and how we can improve the sustainability of vapes.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Ao, it's nice to have you here. Please introduce yourself to our guests.
大家好，我是来自中国电子商会电子烟专业委员会 ECCC 的秘书长阿维诺，非常感谢了我们的主办方邀请我们来到马拉加，参加本次的论坛，跟大家一起学习交流，而且探讨非常有意义的环保回收的问题。那么我们简单介绍一下我们 ECCC， 在这里呢有很多我们熟悉的老朋友，有我们的 UKVAA， 有我们的 IEVA， 还有我们现场来自中国的会员企业来到现场参展，大部分都是我们的会员企业。
Hi everyone, I'm Ao Wei-Nuo, the General Secretary of ECCC. I really appreciate the organizers' invitation so I can have the chance to share and learn from experts here. So about ECCC is the only vaping association in China with the membership of over 900 companies. We're also expanding our partnership with many organizations including UKVAA, IEVA, and also many other companies outside of China.
我想介绍我们 ECCC， 我们有914家会员企业，是中国唯一的一个全国性的行业电子烟行业协会，成立到现在有8年了。
We have 8 years of history, founded in 2017, and the membership now has 914 companies in China.
应该说，全球的电子烟产品90%来自我们的 ECCC 的成员制造的。
So we can say over 90% of the vape products around the world are produced by our members.
ECCC 呢也有自己的愿景和使命，那就是立足中国，面向世界，促进行业合规，保护未成年人，然后倡导ESG 环保。
ECCC has been committed to promoting industry compliance, protecting minors, and facilitating industry sustainability globally.
我们积极开展国际合作，与UKVA、IEVA， 还有美国的 VTA， 我们成立了世界电子烟联盟。
And global partnership is very important. We initiated the Global Vape Alliance with UKVAA, IEVA, and VTA from the US.
那么电子烟的产业发展到今天10几年了，随着全球的加强监管，那么中国作为电子烟生产的供应链的聚集，那么我认为这个行业充满了不确定的因素，面临各种的压力和挑战。
Globally, we have seen the increasingly tightened regulations of vape, and the industry is full of uncertainty, facing huge pressures and challenges. The most significant among those is recyclability and environment issue.
那么特别是近期随着电子烟迅猛的发展，这个电子烟可持续回收、环保问题越来越引起行业和社会的关注。
And also, this kind of topic is extended to the society, the whole general public.
其实，在我们中国的制造企业当中呢，可持续发展这个也是很热门的话题。我们不少的会员企业，相应的从科研到技术创新，希望找到一个能够解决方案。
It is also a hot topic among Chinese manufacturers, and many are investing heavily in R&D and technological innovation in the field, seeking scalable solutions.
其中很多的企业认为，这可能是未来提升电子烟产品竞争力的重要手段。
And many companies are considering recyclability as the essential aspect to gain competitive advantages.
我认为呢，这个是需要政府的监管。行业协会的推动，企业的自律，形成共识，它不是一个企业可以完成的事情。
But individual fighting is not enough. We need a partnership among governments, associations, and companies all together.
我们需要统一步调， 区域性乃至全球性的合作。因此，今天的研讨会，我觉得非常非常的适合。
So we need well-coordinated actions, regional and even global partnership. That's why I think today's panel is at the perfect timing.
I don't know.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Au, for your introduction as well. And now we do have Peter Beckett left.
Hi. Right, well, at risk of losing the audience here, I'll be pretty damn quick. My name's Peter Beckett. I've been in vaping for the last 12 years or so. My public affairs firm 361 runs an initiative called Clearing the Air. What Clearing the Air wants to do is very simple. We want to make it easier for people who are involved in this industry, either as consumers or as small businesses, to be able to lobby governments effectively. The gap in the market's fairly simple. There's a lot of players in this industry, there's a lot of good stories to be told, but those voices are very diverse, and they don't have the kind of backing that the large public health organizations, the large pharmaceutical companies, and the large tobacco companies have. So our mission is to provide the resources, the know-how, and the expertise to allow them to become effective advocates for vaping, vaping products, and tobacco harm reduction. That is it.
Wow, thank you very much. So your speech was very compelling, so I did not think that we would lose the audience here, so thank you very much.
Do my best, mate. I do my
Yeah,
best.
you did, really. Every one of you did. So, well, let's go to our first question. Considering the viewpoint that vaping represents the future of how people will consume their nicotine, how do each of you envision sustainability playing a role in this sector? And Peter, I will go with you first because it'll be great to have some context here. So how are the increasings in the last years? Maybe just give us some context.
It cannot have escaped anybody's notice in this audience that the primary move within the sector over the last 3 to 4 years has been away from pod systems and refillables to disposable units. And that does pose unique challenges, both real environmental challenges that my colleagues are in a much better place to talk about than I am, but also quite serious political challenges. You tie that together with the fact that we are in a controversial industry. There's no point in ignoring it. There's no point in pretending it's not true. What you end up with is what one might call the perfect political storm. Now, there are ways to deal with that, and there are mechanisms that we can use to try and make the argument that, look, the reason disposables exist is because we still have more smokers than vapors, and that's still a public health problem. And so these are a way for somebody who currently smokes to access vapes in a way that is simple for them and that is a responsible move for, a positive move from the perspective of their health. But there are very significant challenges that we need to take hold of right now. And I'll just talk about one, which is the one I know best in the European Union. When I first got into this sector 10 years ago, my role was to prevent the medicalization of the whole sector, all the way back in 2013. Had we not succeeded, none of us would be here right now. As part of the compromise that we came to allow the sector to continue to operate, a clause was placed in Article 20 of the Tobacco Products Directive that says that when 3 EU member states ban a product format, the European Commission can then take those 3 prohibitions and replicate them at the European level through a procedure known as the Delegated Acts procedure, which is a fairly quick and relatively opaque procedure. Here we are, 11 years after that was agreed, and we're about to see our first test case, and it's going to be with disposables. We have a ban in Belgium already. The French ban is all but certain to be approved by the European Commission, and we have Poland, and we have Austria following suit. Make no mistake, this is happening. For further information, please see our and the waste stream it's supposed to go in. For example, that's a design issue. There are ways around that, and there are ways that we can manufacture and design these products in a more responsible way, but it is going to need a lot of coordination along the supply chain, and it's going to need a lot of support among the public in order to tell the story of how disposables help them give up smoking.
Thank you very much for the context giving. Well, Raul and Yao, maybe you could elaborate more about the urgency and the need of having, of course, we have the design problem, we have the recycling problem. Maybe let's just switch to the recycling scheme. So what do you think, why, or what is the urgency and what is the need for a recycling scheme? Maybe Yao, maybe you could go first and then Raul could just follow.
Yes, sure. So, yes, I think there's a big challenge here regarding the recycling of vapes, as Peter was commenting, because the disassemble of the vapes are complicated, takes a lot of time because each one has a different standard and a different design. As we see, the numbers are increasing, so we saw that last year around 5 million vapes per week were disposed in UK. So when we see this, it's around 2,000 tons of batteries per year, and this is a huge amount of batteries also. When you think, because like a recycling facility of a battery, it's around 5,000 tons or 10,000 tons, so it's like 20% of a recycling facility, and we don't have many in Europe. So we need to improve the recycling process, first because of the scarcity of raw materials regarding lithium batteries and also all the materials that we use for vapes. Second, the wrong disposal of the vapes are dangerous for the environment because you can pollute the environment, the soil or the water. Third, also when we are talking about lithium batteries, there is a dangerous for people because lithium batteries can explode or can have leaking, so it can also be dangerous for people. So for sure, we need to guarantee a right disposal. For now, we see that the recycling is the best solution, but to improve the recycling, as I think we are going to talk more after, we need to improve the supply chain to get these items for recycling, and after also to have like an automated process for recycling, because if you are going to do this manually, it's too expensive based in a product that costs like few euros, few pounds, so we cannot have like a person disassemble this manually. So we need to find solutions for automation of the supply chain and also of the recycling. Raul, if you want to add.
Thank you, Joe. Before getting into the details, I would like to say that I'm very happy that I heard from the mouth of one of the biggest players in the field two very important words: sustainability and partnerships. This coming from a market leader in terms of manufacturing, also who's in charge of eco-design. If we get to talk about eco-design, it shows me we're no longer talking only about challenges, we're talking also about an opportunity driven by the actual normal market shift, right? Another good news is the fact that we're not inventing the wheel here. We are talking about recyclability and recycling of an electronic device, which we have known for tens of years already. Definitely, this particular industry has its own specifics, which has to be tackled. But in the big scheme of things, we are still talking about the same systems, the same models being replicated just on a different type of products. And by moving the public discourse from does it have to be sustainable? Does it have to be recycled towards how do we do that? It's already a huge leap forward. We're talking tens of years maybe that has been comprimmed into like the last 2 or 3 years since we were discussing about it. Definitely this is helped by the fact that this particular industry is under a lot of pressure, but it's also helped by the fact that this particular industry can look at the existing models in the market and find out which one would work on this particular case. We have to keep in mind the fact that we are all talking eventually towards the end consumer. And the end consumer is bombarded by all sorts of messages, from recycling of packaging towards recycling of textiles and construction and demolition waste and e-waste and batteries and so on. It would be very difficult to come with a specific, separate topic and message and requirement to the end consumer, specifically for this particular type of industry. So therefore, we need to be very careful how the existing schemes play together in order to help vaping industry to be more performing when it comes to return rates and recycling rates. And also has been mentioned earlier, which is extremely important, it's not everything just about recycling. We're talking about extending the product life, which is eco-design. We talk about keeping the resource in circulation for as long as possible, which means circular economy in the end, and not only about recycling. Definitely recycling is a big part of it, and probably it's going to be our let's say, first attack direction. But we also have to look at how do we prevent the waste from happening before looking on how to recycle it. So I would say that the fact that the industry is looking into this is not just from the end of the chain, from the regulator, but it's also from the very early stage of eco-designing. It's a very good sign, and it's a huge opportunity.
So now you talk about the customer as well, so that we have to have it as easy as possible for them to get, of course, the waste to post, or to have it back into a circular economy, to have more of a extended life circle of the products, of course. So let's discuss the importance of collection through legislation, maybe. Of course, we do have those systems, and let's see. So how could a national model that we already have with other products be scaled at an EU level? Because that will be the question that we are looking for. Or Peter, maybe you could have it.
Difficult question to answer. The European Union has a principle of subsidiarity, which means that decisions tend to be taken at the lowest possible level. And obviously, the collection of and sorting of refuse is something that is done at a national level. What the European level can do and what the international markets can and must do as a matter of priority is three things. First, you need to make the argument for why it is disposable products and products that are simple to use are good for public health. Number two, you have to make a comparative argument around why it is that vaping, from the perspective of sustainability, is certainly less harmful to the environment than continued smoking. And I think that's an important point to make, and it's one that's not made enough within the debate that we're having. But third, and most importantly and most actively, we need to move towards design standards that make it easy for consumers to recycle products. Now, there is this Eco-Design Directive, which provides a framework that sort of facilitates that. It's not built for this sector, but it can serve as a template that we can follow. I think Raul will talk a little bit more on the detail of how that can work. But what I would say is that is not something that the industry, at any stage of the supply chain, should be trying to fight if it wants consumers to continue to be able to access products that are easy for them to use on the open market. And one final point, let's not forget that if we do not get our act together, and if regulators choose to regulate disposables out of existence, it will only be organized crime that benefits. Because where there is demand, there is supply. So let's make sure that that supply remains legal. And in order to do that, we need to have what Raul rightly points out as the most important thing, which are partnerships. I will now shut up and allow the expert to tell me where I went wrong there. But I think that's where we need to start the conversation from.
I would like just first to open with the fact that pretty much none of us is an expert in anything because we're inventing it the way it develops. We're just.
Oh, come on! You're being too self-deprecating. You're an expert. Just
Thank you.
Just act like one.
Let's skip this part and coming back to the discussion. One word that we haven't mentioned enough. It's reparability. Doesn't only have to be recyclable and recycled, which means collected. it also has to be repairable. And if you just look at the very simple fact of the battery, the regular power battery, lithium-ion battery, that has to be replaceable at home, which is already a huge step forward in terms of eco-design. Now, coming back to the how do you scale it up at a European level, there are basically two ways, logical ways. It's either you go from top down or start from bottom up. We're looking at a huge puzzle map, if you want, made of different states in different stages of regulating and different stages of the ability to recycle in terms of quantities collected and recycling capacity and so on. And on the other hand, you have this overall umbrella of regulation at European level, which is looking at it from a quite different angle, as Vita very rightly pointed out. So the main challenge, in my view, is to be able to work with these two very different perspectives. It's one thing when you say, just as a general statement, it has to be recycled and the country needs to be reaching a specific percentage of recycling it. And it's a completely different thing to make it happen in the field, based on the very unique structure and composition of regulators, authorities, public awareness, ability to communicate or not in the public channels, and so on and so forth. So I do believe that has to come at some point in time to a European, let's say, consistent approach throughout the member states, but it's going to take a while, and I think it's the best to have each of these states and each of the producers active in those states quite early involved in the process, because otherwise it's going to be very expensive. When you have to do it overnight and you have nothing built behind you, this always comes at the highest costs. Thank you.
Thank you very much for all the insights. So what are your thoughts on implementing incentives like cost cuts on new purchases or penalties like deposits to ensure compliance with, let's say, recycle programs, or maybe even repairability programs, as you just told before, maybe because we do have the right for repair, or we will have it hopefully. And what are your thoughts on that?
Let me just take that one very briefly. That is somewhat in conflict with what is being done in a lot of member states to increase the level of excise on these products. You are essentially, by proposing that, taking with one hand and giving with the other. And it is very difficult to determine what the incentive structure is going to look like when, forget about the circular economy, you've essentially got a circular tax system. So we need to look at that holistically. And the first stage needs to be risk-appropriate taxation of nicotine products. If we can start there, then we can get to a place when we can think about how do we best incentivize the customer to take responsible action after they've finished using a product.
Yeah, but that's such a complicated topic that you have to have a specific conference only on that.
Yeah, but it's not getting any simpler.
Right, absolutely. Getting back also to the opening of your last remark, when you said something that you have to put in balance the health policy approach with the environment policy approach. We haven't seen that working in the member states. Generally different ministries, different lines of regulating, they don't necessarily work together very well, and I would expect that also to be a challenge at the European level as well. To the same extent, just to answer very briefly to the question, I do believe that an incentive scheme helps, but the devil is in the details. Fiscal details, operational details, field operations, like who's going to give away these incentives, how are they going to be, the financial flows, how are they going to be managed, what's the overall cost of having such a scheme, which generally gets overseen or gets discarded and so on. I think the discussion needs to be had, but also needs to move a step further in looking into the actual implementation details.
Thank you very much. Well, let's maybe go back and have the talk about the design standards again. Well, we were talking about recyclability, now we were talking about repairability. So, of course, but in the end, it all turns down to design, of course. So, standardizing the design of vape products seems to be a pivotal thing to do for the recycling efforts or maybe the prolonging of the life cycle. How do you think a more uniform design could simplify and decrease the costs of the recycling process? And what are the challenges and opportunities in convincing manufacturers to adapt to these standards? Mr. Au, you had an assessment made in 2022. Maybe you could elaborate a little bit with us. How could this work and how the devices are built and how, the way you could be convinced that the manufacturers should do different?
今天听了几位专家和我们企业电池回收企业的代表很多的观点，我觉得非常有收获。
I have heard a lot of opinions from our experts. I think I have learned a lot today.
电子烟它从这个前所未有的受到各方的关注，这是因为我们行业逐渐的发展了，这个世界各国对电子烟加强监管了，这是必然的趋势。
Actually, vaping has gained a lot of attention around the whole world. First, is because it's developing very fast, and second, many countries are being more active than before.
那么我们电子烟面临了两个最大的痛点，一个就是保护未成年人，一个就是电池回收可持续发展的问题。
I think there are two pain points in this industry. First is about the miners, and the second is about the environment.
关于电池回收呢，因为我们的 ECCC 很多的，包括英国、欧洲的很多电池回收公司都跟我们接触的，也有很多的电池回收公司亲自飞到中国，在我们办公室见面，一起探讨这个问题。
About recyclability, actually many companies, not just in China, but also from the EU, from the UK, from the US, fly to China, to our office, to talk to me face to face, to find a solution.
我认为这个核心还是在上游，一个如何解决这个电池回收的成本问题、物流问题，以及从上游的电池的研发、标准化的设计、标准化生产等等，它是个非常难度非常大的。
So the first problem is about the costs, second about the logistics, and the third is about the design, as we say, the R&D of the battery, the standardized manufacturing and design. It's very difficult, to be honest.
那么涉及到实操，那比如说有不同的尺寸、不同的规格，也有不同的品牌，那到了这个终端市场，那如何形成这个高效的回收，这个难度非常大，我们探讨多次了。
And on top of it, it's also something about the implementation. Different size, different models, different standards, different brands. Actually, about these topics, I have talked many times with the stakeholders a lot. The difficulty is still there.
所以我想呢，我们从这个生产方面呢，我们要推动这个电池以及电子烟的企业从设计、从上游走向标准化。
But I still think we need to do something to convince the manufacturers and the battery manufacturers to find a way to really achieve a standardized design.
另外，作为企业，他们很担心的一个问题，就是担心回收这个成本会不会比电子烟生产的成本更高。
The biggest concern for many companies in China is always about costs. They worry the cost for recycling could be even higher than manufacturing.
但是我们的行业要发展，总要解决问题的。如何解决？我们今天坐在一起探讨，就是一个进步。
But I'm sure that this problem must be solved.
如果我们所有的企业，包括生产、包括经销商、包括从业者，只顾着自己企业发展，只顾着自己赚钱，那么这个行业是很悲哀的。
It would be a huge, big disaster if everyone, the manufacturer, the distributor, the retailer, only thinks about their gain, their revenue. There would be a really bad thing for the whole industry.
所以我们按照中国的传统有一句俗话， 来探讨这个可行方案，哪怕找到了大家相对认可，有可行的方案，可以先推动。
So ECCC is a firm supporter for recyclability and any programs related to it. So everyone, you are welcome to China, to Shenzhen, to our office, to talk to our colleagues and also to visit our factories and manufacturers to try to find a win-win solution. At least we can have something done as the first step.
所以今天参加这样的会议很有意义，听了各位专家的意见，我们回去我们加速推动我们这项工作。
Very happy to have the insights from all the experts here, and when we go back to China, I will also carry on moving forward in terms of recyclability. Thank you.
好，谢谢。
Thank you very much. Yo, maybe you want to join in, say something again?
Yeah, sure. So good speech here. Very interesting what he said. I think the most important part of how to improve this part of design and also this part of how to recycle the items or give a nice disposal is to improve the acceptance of the e-vapes in the world. So because as it was commented before, some countries are forbidding the e-vapes, the disposable vapes. So we need to find a way to prove that, okay, it's a sustainable operation. You can consume vapes and you can recycle, you can find a good way to dispose these vapes and have a circular economy regarding this type of device. When we talk here about recycling, as we said again, the design is the most important part. I know that it's a product that's really related to design. So when we see here in the conference, there are beautiful vapes, different vapes, colors, formats, everything. But it's important that there is a way that we can recycle this easier or disassemble. Also because when you talk about batteries, the new battery regulations are talking that all the device must to be easily disassembled regarding the batteries. Because in the past, there are items like an iPhone that you cannot take the battery out. But in the future, the regulations, at least in Europe, they are asking that all products that has battery inside can be disassembled easily. For sure, it's not by anyone, but we can find a way that you can take this battery out because then you can easily recycle the electronic part and the battery. Maybe by a machine, by anything, but this is the way that we can improve the recycling of this item. So in my opinion, there are many arguments here to improve the design or why to be more sustainable, but when we think about market, I think the main point here is to increase the acceptance of the vapes in the market. If you are facing these blockings, let's say these bans, a big reason it's because sustainability, but if together with all the stakeholders we can prove that e-vapes are sustainable or they can be circular, they can be in the market as other products that we have now. So I think this is the biggest motivation for the manufacturers to improve the design and also to change the design to a circular way.
Well, when it comes to sustainability and, of course, the acceptance in the market, it is all about the pioneers in the industries, isn't it? So, Mr. Au, what do you think, how critical is the role of the industry leaders in creating a sustainable design for all the vaping products?
Me?
This is the last question because afterwards we have to wrap up because we do not have that much time left.
我认为呢，就是全球无论哪种行业、各种领域，其实呢，作为这个全球性的合作是必要的，因为我们相信电子烟世界各国的从业者，我们都是命运共同体，这是我们的观点。如何找到一个多赢共赢一个办法？我们相信各个行业的从业者还要努力制造这个我们一个舆论导向。
I think no matter what the industry is, win-win and all-win is the most needed for global cooperation, and that's where we need to lead the public opinions to.
那么电子烟的设计，它的流行，它从来不是为了服务未成年人，当然更加不是为了牺牲环境所诞生的。
So the popularity of vape and its design and its manufacturing is not targeting to minors, underage people, and is not aiming to destroy our environment. It's not a goal.
所以今天重点谈的是电池回收。我想，如果在电池回收方面得到不要说彻底的解决，哪怕有踏出实质性的一步，我想对当地的所在国、对居民、对消费者，它一定是个好消息，大家都会支持。
So even though we don't have a perfect solution, we can have a pragmatic first step coming out to a country, to a target country. The government, the authority, and the people will all be happy.
我也建议我们作为 ECC 的成员，也有很多的大企业，他也愿意参与进来。
So I'm also talking to especially the leading companies in China, the leading members in China, to be involved in this program.
但是这需要一个很好的机制，比如说是否有一些激励的机制，有一些各方的参与的机制，让我们的企业参与者和消费者共同来鼓励我们这个回收电子烟。
But to make that happen, we need a mechanism. We need an incentive mechanism to encourage those companies to be happily involved into it.
这可能在前期、初期是有难度的，但是需要企业和各方的投入和付出。
It could be difficult for the first step, for the second step, but it really also needs the efforts made by the companies.
其实我们 ECC 已经在从事这份工作的投入了，已经和很多机构在开会，在探讨这方面的问题。
So regarding this, ECCC has done something already. We have partnered with some organizations to find ways to convince and encourage companies and manufacturers to be involved.
这不仅仅是上游的设计、企业的关注，以及我们经常开这个 ESG 可持续发展培训的会议，这是常态化。
And we'll also standardize the ESG conference in China to educate the member companies about what the environment is really about.
那么，如果我们的会员企业带头愿意参与 ECCC 和各方这个电池回收的，是否这个政府有优惠啊，有税收啊，有各种优惠的政策等等，这个是最好的。
So let's imagine if the big companies, the big players in China are willing to be part of it, to support the recyclability campaign. Will there be any tax favorable policies in the target countries to support them and to encourage them? I think that's what we can carry on continuing to discuss.
那么，比如说愿意带头和我们 ECC 和各方共同推动电池回收的，那还可以在公益广告、在环保方面的宣传，给一些积极的一些公益广告等等。我想对这个行业、对它企业自身的责任和这公益方面是个正面的。
And maybe it's not just about money or finance things. It can also be reputation. For example, a company supports a recycling campaign. Can they have the chance to being shown in some public advertisements to promote their brands and their contribution? It could also bring them in.
所以我自己也从事了差不多10年的这个行业协会了。你看我对面的非礼13年，我们很热爱这个行业，不愿意看到这个行业朝坏的方面发展。
I've been in this industry for 10 years, and my friend Philip from Germany, he's been here for 13 years. We're the same people. We want to protect our industry rather than ruin it.
所以说我们行业协会发挥的作用，还有全球联盟的作用，应该是很大的。我也愿意让 ECCC 重要的成员带头来做这件事情。
So I think in this endeavor, industry associations are very important, and I'm very happy when I go back to China to encourage more Chinese companies to really make efforts in this.
但是又回到了刚才说的很多企业。 他想了，我电池回收，那其他企业怎么办？其他品牌怎么办？如何协调？如何这个共同来推动？我想只有从少数几个品牌来推动比较切合实际的。
Some companies might think if I do it, what about other brands and other companies? Will they also be part of it? So there's a kind of comparing mindset. So I would suggest some leading big companies to be there first, and then to bring the whole industry to join.
那么今天的话题呢，我认为有几个焦点。第一个，标准化生产、标准化接口、可拆卸、简易拆卸。
So there are key points that we can focus on. For example, the standardized manufacturing, and also the interface, the standardized interface, and how should we dismantle the products in a standard way.
第二个呢，我们愿意和这个我们全球联盟的几个行业协会的成员，以及我们 ECCC 的这个重要的这个成员，愿意带头迈出第一步，来实现这个电池回收计划，哪怕做尝试也是个成功的，而不是停留在口头上。
And the second, we need a global coordination. That's why we need a global vape alliance, ECCC, UKVIA, EVA, VTA, to work together to have some pilot programs done in some way, so we can at least have the first try.
我们应该让政府的执法部门也要让这个社会看到我们大家团结的决心和做这件事情的效果。
It can really be a good showcase to the authorities and legislators around the whole world to see we are determined on this.
所以我们电子烟行业时间发展了10几年还很短，还有很漫长的路要走。
So even though the industry is still in its infancy, we still have a long way to go.
无论是监管还是电池回收等等问题，它需要不断的完善。那我们的使命，这个肩上的使命还很重。后续呢，我们也希望跟大家共同努力来推动这件事情。
The difficulty is daunting, but our determination remains the same to really protect and promote the industry. And I'm also happy to discuss with our experts in the future.
那么在我们 ECC 的办公室，我们的会员企业是非常团结的，每一个星期都有培训会，每一个星期都有活动，基本上围绕着这个政策、法律法规。就是电池环保回收、金融等等各方面的领域都有。只要我们一号召，我相信大家非常的支持我们的工作。
And for ECCC, we have a huge influence on our membership. So any cooperation projects, proposals you have, welcome to China, to our office, and we can have an extended discussion for that.
So I'm so sorry, I have to stop it right here because we do only have 6 minutes left, and I'm going to give the other ones also the chance to have a little wrap up. Well, thank you very much for your input, Mr. Au. So let's have the others talk too. So I will do a quick wrap up and then we will just combine everything together. So we talked about global waste. We talked about repairability and recyclability and how the designing standards could change everything in the whole market and how we approach things with the vaping products. And we talked about global partnerships, and Mr. Au was, of course, offering his partnership as well, which was pretty nice. So let's have a wrap up about the next steps. So what are your contributions? So we heard a lot from Mr. Au, what he would contribute, how he would step in, what to do. And, well, Peter, what would be your thing?
So what I would ask everybody to do is go back to first principles. Do we think that these products are useful for consumers who currently smoke and who need a simple way to get out of that loop? If we believe the answer is yes, then we need to advocate for sensible regulation on product design and on recycling. It's very clear that while there are things that we can do as a group, this is not going to be solved by a bunch of big companies sitting in the room. It's going to be resolved by legislators. And we're going to have to comply with it, regardless of what we all may or may not agree on. So we need to focus on having that discussion at the level of first principles. Are there people in society who are struggling to give up smoking, who need something simple? And if the answer is yes, we need to work in concert to advocate for those kinds of regulations that build a social contract around the existence of the category in general. And that's always been the case for this category. I've been in it 12 years. That's always been the problem, and it always will be the problem. We should be better at it than we are right now.
So maybe in the future we will get better at it. So Yao, what is your thinking?
Sure. I think if you think like in a roadmap for the next steps, the first step is already started. It's to create these commissions or these groups of companies that are together, working together. So ECCC is a good example. The next step, I would say, it's okay. Every time that we have a new market, it's interesting to compare with a market that's already in place. So I would go for electronic and batteries markets because the vapes, it's a mix of these two markets. So look how companies, compliance schemes, PROs, EPRs are managing the waste of electronics and batteries. A part of it also connect all the stakeholders, the companies that are related to this market. So we have the producers, we have the retailers, we have the sellers, we have the recyclers, we have the logistics. So since you have the supply chain coordinated, the next step, when everything is done, it's going really to the market with the customer. Because it doesn't matter if you have all the supply chain ready, if you cannot motivate the end customer to take back your device. This is looking for the sustainability. So since everything is ready, and I see there are many different ways to approach this, okay, for the take back of vapes, and this is something that Landbell is helping companies also to do already. Then you go to the end customer and you really try to do this service to improve the collection of old devices and also recycling and increase the circular economy of these products.
Thank you very much. Raul, you are the least one, or last one.
Thank you. I would build on what Joao just said. Design is not only about product aesthetics or product functionalities. Design is also about systems and mechanisms that Mr. Ao has mentioned, and I think we should all go to the drawing board and design systems that work together in a way that involves all the stakeholders that Joao has mentioned, because otherwise it will not work. And if it doesn't work, the industry dies. That's it.
That's it. Wow, that was a wrap-up. Thank you very much. So all of our experts here, of course, are still here on the fair to have talks with you. I think this is an open invitation for every one of you to have a talk with any of our guests. So if you want to approach one of them.
Don't know, I'm not very sociable. Don't approach me.
Well, he's not sociable, but
I got stuff to do.
Yeah.
Leave me alone.
He has a hard shell, but he's got a soft inside. So everything is just okay within. So approach him maybe with a smile. That would be pretty compelling. So thank you very much to all of you to be in this panel discussion today. I hope that we will, of course, design some standards, design some systems, design the future together. But I think this step today was one important step that we are making, and I hope we will make
This
a lot
has
of
been
more.
made by design, by the way.
Sorry?
We are here by design.
By design, yeah, that's true. That's true.
See?
So yeah, it's a system that works. Yeah, hopefully it works even better in the future.
Right.
So please approach them. Please ask them whatever you like, especially Peter, since he's the social guy. Thank you very much for being here, and we'll see each other again.
Thank you.